Well, greetings, everyone. I tried to wait a little late to see if we could get some black conservatives in tonight, but it seems like no one is here to answer the call. Um, I will be glad to talk about some of these issues until possibly Mr. Williams or someone else comes on the show. Um, because I find it troubling, I guess is a word, that in today's social media, we should be able to have a discussion. Even someone as old as me who think that who thinks that most black conservatives are actually uh, housekeepers, uncles, whatever my generation wanted to call them. But I did think that it was important to have a dialogue. I always hear from conservatives about, well, we're misunderstood. We don't have a voice, and anyone that knows this show, this program, I've invited conservatives on here before. As a matter of fact, I've even offered to give them their own show, their own platform, and I get about as many responses as I do right now. So, if it's disturbing to you that these so-called conservatives that want to make sure that money and resources are taken out of the hands of the poor blacks and put into the hands of the elite blacks. um, I don't know how many of you listened to some of Mr. Tim Scott's BS this week, uh, considering the failure of the George Floyd Act and the police reform bill that was supposedly being worked on by Tim Scott and Cory Booker. Now, believe me, we all know that, Cory Booker's no saint, just like any other politician that's out there. But Tim Scott has made sure that the George Floyd Act was dead in the water, either by his non participation or by his flat out lies to his constituents and to us, as far as his reasoning for not being able to put a what do they call that word in bipartisan bill. So we have no George Floyd bill. We have no John Lewis bill, John Lewis Voting Rights Act. We have voting rights being restricted in Arizona, Texas, Florida, Georgia. I want to say Kansas, but even if we left that out, we still have people doubting the election results. 200 and almost 300 days into this presidency, we still have people talking about the election was stolen. Stolen by whom? The one good thing about this, I find when I don't get a lot of guests, is that I am able to go off on some rants that I wasn't able to go off on before. And, this includes when I see and hear politicians making excuses. Hello, Dr. Casey.
Hey, where the link at, sir?
I thought I sent it to you. I'm getting it to you right now.
What's the name? Somebody else asked for it too.
Okay, well, I'll send
The
it to you.
older lady. I
Miss
can't remember her name.
Miss Sims.
Yes, Miss Sims asked for it too.
Yeah, I had sent it to you. Okay, I'll send it to you right now.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, let's see. Okay. Uh, okay. All right. Excuse me. Let me get a couple people in here. Okay. So. Uh, okay. And where are you? Okay. All right. Let's see. What happened here? Why some people didn't get the uh, notice and some people didn't. Let's try see if we can put her in here also. I have to send that to her in Messenger, Facebook. Okay, Dr. Casey, I see we did get you in tonight, so let's see what's going on. How's your night going?
It's going pretty well. I wouldn't
Oh,
complain.
okay, okay. I was kind of getting into. Okay, there's Miss Sims. Good evening, Miss Sims. How are you
Hey, Miss Sims.
Hi, greetings all.
tonight? Okay. Uh, can you hear us?
Yeah, she just got to flip her
I
mic
can
down.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yeah.
can. Yes, we
Yeah.
can. How are you this evening, Miss
How you doing
Sims?
this evening, Miss Sims?
I'm doing fine. How about you?
Doing fine. How did the election go up there in your city?
I don't think she can hear you. He asked how the election went up there, Miss Sims.
Just a minute. I'm trying to find you guys. I've lost you.
You got a lot of stuff open over there.
Uh, I guess I was trying to get in at one time when James was trying to get in. Yeah, I do. Go on. I'll get back to you. I'm trying to get in. I'm trying to get in.
uh, well, I guess, Dr.
Now,
Casey, were you surprised at the election results in Virginia?
I don't really keep up with politics to the extent of knowing what actually happened. I just look at the results. And the reason really is because at this point in my life, even though I'm much younger, um, no matter who's in office at this point, it doesn't seem to bring much change. It's the same like-minded people in office over and over again, and they're only putting in office like-minded people, so the results don't really come to be much different. Now if somebody that has a standout type of appearance or campaign is running, then I'm more so looking to it. But otherwise I don't want to be disappointed. It's like everybody that voted for Joe and Camilla, yeah, they everybody voted for Joe and Camilla, and then now everybody's like, well, why did we vote for them? Like, and I'm thinking, like, I told y'all that Joe been the same Joe since Joe was young. So Joe ain't changing too much. I don't give a dang, gonna care what happened. The person that he has always been, the beliefs that he always had, it doesn't change because he served with one president. That does not happen. It doesn't do that. I mean, and studying psychology allows me to see beyond the smoke and mirrors, I believe.
Um, Miss Sims? Miss
Uh-uh.
Sims?
Did you mute it?
I didn't mute her. Did she mute herself? Let's see. No,
Miss Sims, get out and then
she's,
come back in. Press the link again. Start over. That's the only way,
she can hear
in my
you. Is what
experience.
she can hear you fine. She just can't hear me. I wonder what the. Okay. Well, anyway.
It
Uh,
should fix when she clicks back in.
well, we'll see. But they did have an election up in Minneapolis. They selected the mayor. I was hoping Miss McPherson would come back on. I think she was disappointed in her showing,
She
but
didn't. So how did she do it in the election? I know that I met her the
I,
first time.
yeah, I wasn't sure. That's the reason why I was trying to have her back
Get her
on.
back on.
But it does seem to me, when you talk about like the same old song. I've been doing this show with the people of Minneapolis since the death of George, well, since the murder of George Floyd, and it does seem like they're about to go through the motions again and elect pretty much some of the same old people. Miss Sims, can you hear me now?
yes, it says that I'm in the show. Can you hear me?
Yes, you are in the show. We can hear you. You're
I'm
fine now.
you can hear me?
Yes,
You'll be
ma'am.
good now.
Okay, good, good, good. Great.
I was asking about some of the elections in your city, Mr. Fry, the school board, some of the school, some of the other offices in your city. Did anything really change?
Basically, what I was looking at, I don't know if the school boards people were up yet. It was basically the city council and the mayor. It kind of turned out as I had expected and voted. The only disappointment for me was the same person for Ward 5, which is Jeremiah Ellison. Ellison. Um, I was disappointed that he was elected again. Uh, I thought it was time for him to move on. North Minneapolis really needs someone as quiet as it's kept and not spoken of. Minneapolis is in a battle of its survival, and we need somebody at the table who's ready to get in there, who knows the game, knows the players in the game, and how the game is played. And I don't think Jeremiah's been in there 4 years now, and I don't think he's up to that capacity to get right in and ready to do battle. I need somebody that's ready to do battle.
Oh, well, Miss Sims, what's he been doing this last 4 years? Okay.
No, I'll ask you. I'll ask you. I'll have you ask your friend Don Allen. Well, one of the things that I feel that he and the total city council hasn't been attuned to, and is really missing out is right now in the city, and I'm working on it too. A new light rail system is going in. It goes from Minneapolis all the way out to Brooklyn Park. There's five different cities, and I haven't heard over the last. I've been working on this for 10 or 11 years, and since 2015, City Council hasn't met or talked with the community. Now, last year in 2020, they decided the Met Council and the Hennepin counties decided to go in a new direction. So that meant starting all over after all these years we've been working on it, and to start over. And now they are bringing. I see now that persons from the city council and the business community, etc., 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 are now at the table. But one of the things that I'm stressing to folks that are now at the table, and I don't think they realize, they are 5 years behind the other four cities along the line. And now they're having to play catch up. And I don't think the powers that be have let them know yet. And I'm trying to get in, like, hey, go back and see what's gone on before you came on in 2020. That will help you make decisions that while you're now at the table. And to me, that's crucial.
Yes, it is very crucial to always have a seat at the table. I have to ask you about was it Measure Two, the police reform bill, or something like that in your city?
Yeah, defund the police. That did not pass. That did not pass. The restructuring the police, etc., etc., is to take place, giving the city council whatever they need to go forward. Defunding the police, it didn't pass by kind of a large margin, maybe a 10% margin. The last I saw, but one of the things that I'm real leery of, and other trying to get the word out to other people, that some at least 4 or 5 other persons that the previous persons that voted for that are on city council, they got reelected. So now you have a mixture of the defunded the policers and moving forward with a different strategy. And I expect clashes between those two entities that we need to be keep on top of and be involved in, because it can go nowhere fast, because personalities are hard and strong, can be hard and strong on certain things. And so that's the second stage of the battle.
Dr. Casey, yeah, what is? I don't know if I ever really got your position on what we should do with our police departments in our neighborhood, or police funding, defunding.
I have an interesting view about it. I definitely think that we need some type of law enforcement. However, I do think that it needs to be re I don't want to say reformed. It needs to be reimagined, like a total kind of wipeout. It's hard to just add new rules to a group of people that have already been set in what they're used to. They're going to keep doing it because that's the culture of it. So if you reimagine the whole thing and kind of scrap and make them kind of reapply and kind of position themselves in a new policing force or policing mechanism, because I don't want to say police force, because when it's a force then you're forcing your position onto people more than it being the ability to have more of a free will. One of the things that I suggest on all of my platforms is that we in quota based policing. That is the biggest hindrance in our communities, because a lot of people are getting stopped because they're trying to meet a quota, they're trying to get bonuses, they're trying to do all the extra, which puts more pressure on them. Because if I have to meet a quota to get a bonus, then I'm stopping some extra cars, I'm gonna do a little bit extra harassing, basically, because now I'm stopping people that I wouldn't even have stopped if I would have been on a flat line type of pay per diem. So if you stop the quota based policing, you can shift the culture that way. And then as a parent, I've accompanied a lot of field trips. And I think that some of the police force, if anything, should be used as protection to transport children from one place to another, because it's dangerous when those buses are on highways trying to navigate on field trips and other things like that. So if you stop quota based policing and you do a community narrative to policing where they are active, not at schools patrolling, but actually being a part of the community, actually being seen as a helper more than just somebody that's, coming to lay the law, then you will get a better culture surrounding the police. Because right now, people see the police and they automatically think harassment. Shit, I don't sell drugs. I've never had a felony. And when I see the police, I'm looking in my mirror like, hold on, is they gonna stop me? Like, I don't know. Like, and I am a clean person. Like, I don't do bad things. Like, I'm real, but I still get nervous. Like, a couple years back, me and my sister had a little fight before my father passed away, and she ended up jumping out the car, walking, and we were in the neighborhood where they would call the police, and the police pulled up, and I put my hands out the window. I was like, "Look, I ain't got time for this shit right now," because all they do, and I carry a gun. I am a licensed gun owner. So I have a lot of narratives that I have seen play out in a very bad
Right.
way.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, so it's like, hold on, let me make sure that I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to be, because I got two kids that I don't need to see me die with no police
Right. Right.
involvement, and then people that I don't want to leave hanging, or them to not have a parent around. Like, it's a lot of people that say they would die for the movement, and I'm thinking like, no, I need to live for my children. I'm with the movement. I'm gonna do as much as I can to help. I'm
That's
going to
right.
lend my voice where I can, but I'll even not talk on certain topics in certain platforms and arenas, just because I know that it will put a bullseye on you in certain in circumstances. So when it comes to policing, it needs to be reimagined, and the focus needs to be shift to more community based type of narratives. If you make it more community based and they're interacting, then they'll be able to understand the community. If they're just going there to police, then they don't even know what's going on. They don't know how, the stories of the people there. When I think at a time in some areas, police would be friendly and they would kind of get to know the people in the neighborhood, so they would be able to be more effective because it wasn't like you're just coming to arrest somebody. It was actually you cared. And when people know that you care, they handle you different, they move different, they act different because now they know that somebody is caring for them versus just coming to punish.
Mr. King, I want to add to that, and I'm coming from my experience as being a faith-based organizer. I did not vote for that particular issue because number one, I thought it was avoiding the real issues that are there now, instead of confronting what's there now. It was in a way it was avoiding all of that because you already have hundreds of people already out there working dysfunctionally in that area, and then you're talking about adding more people to that mix, and then while you're getting ready to get ready, the crime hasn't stopped. Nobody, you got to have a balance here. The crime hasn't stopped. So while you're trying to build up, and my understanding is going to will take a while. Crime, nobody has talked to the bad guys in terms of now. You all wait till we get all this organized, and then we'll go. We'll be ready to deal with you differently. And then bottom line, I get to thinking, if you police are licensed to kill, and they're usually backed up by the judicial system and their unions. Now, if you're going to have somebody get somebody a license to kill me in the beginning before they're hired, you better really have, I mean, gone back to the grandmama and asked them
Background
about them.
check. Who? Yeah.
That everything.
Who is your people? Because
That's right. Because I don't get if you're out there, pulling your gun on me and gonna shoot me, I don't get a second chance. So
right.
if you're gonna go that route and give somebody a license, literally, I'm not, and this is no
Yeah,
joke,
with the
to
immunity,
kill.
it is.
That's right. You better have vented that person up and down. Even check with the hospital to see if they were really born there. And then I think a part of also I've seen through the years is people aren't confronting the unions, the police unions, and the contracts made between the police unions and the city. Now, the police unions are the power behind the power, because a lot goes on in there, and I would put things back on them. They need to check out just within that organization what's going on. I don't know how many police that are involved in the union per se deal with each other, deal with things internally that's going on. But I think here in Minneapolis, people don't seem to have, the majority of people don't seem to have picked up on or don't think that way in terms of look behind the scenes. What's going on behind the scenes? If you look at people's behavior and listen to what they say, they will tell you a lot. And a lot of here in Minneapolis, a lot of the police force comes from outstate or in communities, whiter communities, et cetera, et cetera. And so, if you have an attitude way out, that you've lived an attitude with in going to school, college, or the military, and you have the mindset of killing somebody or being trained to kill, then sometimes you're going to be ready and looking for somebody to do damage to. And so
But you
you
know
have
what,
to think in all that.
Miss Sims, I
Go
think
ahead.
about, I was reading a book recently that talked about in certain areas in certain cities, there was, I can't remember what it's called at this moment, but at 6 o'clock or when the nighttime came, there was a siren that would go on to tell black people to get
It's
out
called
of the
sundown
Wow.
community.
cities. They're called
Yes.
sundown cities.
Oh, okay.
So when it comes
Phoenix City
to
was Phoenix City used to be a sundown city. That's the
It
reason
was
why I know.
I read a book about it, so because I heard it, and then I was like, "What?
Mm.
Like, you gotta be kidding me!
Wow.
You had to be down, like, out of there by sundown, or they were gonna kill you, and they had an alarm
Mm.
to tell you that."
Oh yeah,
So
and
when you
that
Wow.
was
think
in
about
or
that,
out of uniform. Didn't matter.
Wow. Wow. Whoa.
so, but
Oh
when you
my.
think about that, it speaks a lot to so many narratives that we see now, and
Hmm.
so much racism. But getting back to knowing the history of that person, you need to know the person's grandmother. You need to know what they were raised to think or believe, how they were raised
Right.
to view
That's right.
people.
That's right.
Because if you get there and you've been raised from a small child to hate black
Hmm.
people just because they're black, then you're already looking for
Right.
a
You're
black
primed.
person that's
Yep.
doing something wrong. And and
Yeah.
and they could not even be doing nothing wrong. You just picking on
Right.
them because they black.
Right.
So
Right.
and
There's
then,
a lot of nepotism in the police.
well, you
Father,
know what?
son. And
Yeah.
and that's what stops a lot of vetting because you're Joe's son. Oh yeah, come on,
Hmm.
we'll give you a
But
That's
badge.
there
it's the
too. I
same thing in
agree.
politics. It's the
Yeah.
same thing in politics.
Of course, of course. So you know, uh, I of course
I
had a
only know officers that have been abusive and violent. Like, all the police officers that any of my family members have dated, they've always been abusive, or like they
Wow.
are like a loose end, like they got a loose
Mm.
screw or something going on.
like they
So
have a
vetting is
God
not,
complex.
yeah, but it's not just about racism. It's about
Oh,
just, that manic abusive type of nature. Like, you've been suppressed
power,
all your life and now you got power and you're going to take it out on
right?
whoever you get
Yep. Yep.
opportunity
Yep.
to.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
And if you're trained and conditioned to certain things, you're going to respond to that training and conditioning. And I'm a strong believer that just because you live in my neighborhood and you're black doesn't mean that you're going to you can do just as much damage as anybody else. You can be a Martian or a purple people eater and do the right thing, and consider humanity and all that involves. And I will support you and I'll work with you. Just because you're black and live in my neighborhood doesn't make you a good guy all the time. We all know that, but we all say
Facts.
people should live in the neighborhood, etc., etc. But the reality is that ain't always so. We all know that.
Facts.
no, it's
Facts,
not.
Miss Fields.
It's not always so. But the thing I think about making sure that your police officers at least live within your city limits. I'm not saying they have to live within, but at least within your city
Yeah,
limits is so that they at least have some type of working knowledge of what's going on
that's
in
true.
the city.
That's
Now,
true.
that's not saying, like you say, that's not saying just because they look like me, it's going to
Hmm.
make it any different or anything like that. But when you have someone that's from your community, you at least have some inkling of what he's about rather
Yeah,
than the guy that's coming in from the suburbs or coming in
yeah.
from 2 counties away and he's just there for a paycheck or he's there, like I said, because of some type of nepotism.
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
I understand what you're saying, and what you're saying is kind of keeping hope alive to the rest of us that you're more familiar with the culture, etc., etc., and so that helps us keep hope alive that things are going to be better in regards to the relationship between that particular police officer and the community.
and it can also calm down a lot of situations or circumstances that might be taken a little further. For instance, we had a county sheriff that lived down the street from my father. It just so happened that he and I had served in Vietnam together. We had another gentleman that lived further in the neighborhood, and he was a city policeman. So it was, if you had a problem, you could at least go down and talk to them. Or if you had a problem with your family, you could once again go down and get some type of. Now, they might not have always had the answers, but at least you felt comfortable enough to go down and say something.
Yeah.
You don't.
And
I don't see that anymore.
right, and within that network of policemen, they have a lot of them have earned the bad reputation that they now have through the years, and so they're themselves if they're really gonna prove themselves or
Uh-oh.
but the ones they love and care about, they're going to have to go back and rethink their actions, their behavior, etc., etc. And if it's needed, they need to do some change in here.
Now, uh, you had a very kind of unique look at things there, Dr. Casey, when you were talking about the. I don't. How did you put that? Not reforming, but how did you put that?
Re-imaging.
Yeah, re-imaging. I mean, you know, as soon as we hear police, the first thing we see, we think about is that car on the side of the
Just
door,
all of the
protect and
negative
serve.
connotations that comes with it. It's a lot of, it's not just one narrative that's like, man, well, what if this happened? It's like this whole array of things. I could get beat, I could get shot, I could get
Mm,
raped, I could get, like
right, right,
anything
right.
at this point. Anything can happen. We've seen so many different narratives, and for there to be the immunity, that again is not just over the police department. Qualified immunity applies to the police department, but when you talk about any government official, doctor, lawyers, anybody that works for the government has a way out. All they got to do is lie in a report, in their paperwork, fudge a
Mm,
little truth, leave something out, leave what they did out and put in only what the person did in response to, and it will make them think that you are the person that initiated it. And I'm telling you this from experience. Like literally, they will villainize you if you
yeah.
question any type of authority that any of them have. And as long as they got immunity, they can say whatever they want and they can make it seem like you are the bad person.
And
That
that's
well,
what I mean when I say power behind the power. People that you usually see are the visible people, but then there's the power behind the power that's even more powerful than the people that you see that you think are in power.
and you find that a lot within our justice system. Power, money, whatever you want to call it. It's more about who you know than
A lot of
whether you
backwatching.
are whether or not you are guilty or innocent. I mean, when I was out there, I had one guy that fixed things for me. If that's what it took. I had another one that, like I said, was a trial lawyer. If that's what it took, but uh, you can find it's not so much about justice as it is about just us. And when I say just
Mhm.
us, I'm talking about the people on the other side, because they are in the majority and they do actually regulate our curriculum, whether we want to really perceive it or not, in that fashion. If you're in the minority, there's a certain amount of information and I want to say
I don't
backlash
I
that you automatically are subjected to.
I don't personally believe in the minority in the way in which they've positioned it. And the reason why I say that is because what I've learned in the last year and a half with this COVID thing is there's a lot of trickery with the numbers. So they may want you to believe that you're the minority because if you believe that you don't have the power in the numbers, then you won't do anything that takes
Yeah.
numbers to do what you need to do. But if you knew that it was way more black people, brown people, colored, non Caucasian, non European people, then guess what? You would be so darn powerful that they wouldn't be able to stop you. So if you think you're the minority, then you won't know that your voice is stronger, louder, and more powerful than you've been led to believe. But again, when you talk about you throw in religion, you throw in all of these pacifiers that keep you kind of, suckling on what they want you to believe, then it just it kind of ruins the sense of hope if you really, conscious on any level, because it's discouraging.
Well, the
And I,
census has shown that brown people and people of color are you know becoming the majority, and this is like we say, this is part of the white backlash. So uh and I've actually lived long enough to actually see this happen. I mean, I heard about it as a kid, heard about it as a young adult. Now I actually see that the numbers are actually turning in our favor.
See,
And
and I believe that the numbers have been there, but we haven't had the visibility to see it. Like now we on the internet. Now we can connect to people in other places. But before there was no way to connect to say, what is the population and what is our percentage of the population in reality? Not what they want you to believe, not what they want you to think, because you got to remember Native Americans got titled Negroes and black. It was people that was indigenous to this land. They got titled other things just so that they would not know who they were at the core of their soul. Like it's really deep and it's surface level. But you can only go as far as people are willing to open their mind to. So sometimes it's just a waste of time to even try to explain to people how deep it really is, as far as keeping you with blinders on. It's like, you got to shave the sheep's hair from around his eyes for it to be able to see. But if the sheep eyes is covered, they can't see nothing, then where you gonna go? What you gonna do? You can't do nothing.
Miss
yeah.
Sims, what
Well,
do you think
based on
about that?
based on my experiences, I in no way uh, vilify and put all white people or other people in the category of being negative and the bad guys. No way. That's not been my
Okay, so let
experience.
me
In
ask you
fact,
this, Miss Sims. How I agree. Not all of them are bad. However, my question would be, how can you be bad and knowingly allow people to treat other people bad? I
but
mean, how
I
can
was
you
going
be
to,
good?
okay, I was going to follow up, and maybe that's going to what you're saying. One of the things that I had experienced early in my organizing was that there faith based, that there were a lot of people that came to that area out of their humanity or faith or whatever, and I found out that a lot of people didn't realize that they were also included in the way the politicians and the power structure had been set up. Once you talk to them and make them realize, hey, you've been screwed over too, they became more knowledgeable and they get fired up and ticked off, etc., etc. And so that has happened through the years. And back when I started in the early '90s, I was mostly people doing justice and equity and whatever in in Minnesota, in the faith-based community, were mostly white, very few black folk. And one of the things that I found out, and why a lot of churches didn't join a lot of the organizations, they felt like they didn't want to belong to a white organization that they felt like people were trying to run them or or not respect them, etc.,
Marginalized or
etc.
anything.
Right, right. But while it was just the opposite kind, because I was on the inside, these white groups were reaching out to them because they were looking
To help.
looking for partners and not just being in there and guessing how to help, guessing how they could,
Hmm.
deal with aiding the community, etc., etc. And I'm talking about my corner of the world back then, and even now in regards to now, through the last few years, a lot of the you'll find here in Minneapolis, a lot of the organizations have started uh, combining with the basically white organizations that were in existence way back then and were out there in the courts and whatever, trying to do the right thing and trying to uh, keep off the enemy and the bad guys, waiting for black folk to come to the table when they wanted, and under the under whatever issues that they wanted to bring. They wanted to keep that door open, and that has happened along with my experiences, and more black organizations, different organizations within the last 5-10 years have actually sprang up and going forward, and that's a positive and that's a plus.
But Miss Sims, in the same vein that you're speaking, I've found that the only time that black folks are invited to the table is when it's advantageous for white folks.
And
I think so.
I can't. Go ahead,
I think
Doctor
there are
Catherine.
some genuinely good hearted Caucasian European Americans. There has always been. There were white women that were trying to help families. There were, getting caught up in even white men who are racist are in love with black women. That's why they were raping and they were doing like it's like I don't even know what the
Don't
term would
don't
be. It's
don't,
like a
don't go
love hate
there.
relationship. It is. It's like they hate us because we're powerful, naturally charged by the sun, and all of these great magical things. But then they fear us, so they hate us because of the fear that we could be so powerful that it would be uncontrollable to them. But I know I've seen people that have genuine hearts towards black people, and like they have genuine concern and will do anything to tap in. But it's so few that it's just hard, I think, for us as a collective to trust, because it's like every time we've trusted, there has been some type of, yeah, like, okay, we trust in you. Oh shit, you know.
I think there may be more than generally people realize, because a lot, and especially there are white families that are adopting or intermarrying, etc., etc. But one of the reasons you don't visibly see them is because they are part of that silent majority that won't say anything, won't take the, don't have the courage or whatever
Mhm.
needed to step out front, let it be known, this is where I'm coming from. This is not, I'm not going to allow you to do this to me or anybody else. And one of the things I also think in regards to people, black, white, green, or purple, that work regarding under equality, social justice, equity, and things like that, I think we tolerate the other camps too long in terms of where they're coming from. I think we can't, because we're coming from our humanity and we know the balance. We know how to treat other people. We expect the other guys to do the same thing. That's not so. They're not gonna come to. They're not gonna come to the table. Do that. That's just not gonna happen. Just like with this COVID thing, how the government and other people in power are allowing the people that don't want to get the COVID shots for whatever they claim to be. The government, and it really irks me. I can't get why they are keep allowing that to happen. They are literally treating uh, the bad guys as most favored.
Oh wait, wait,
The
hold on.
minority of people who won't get vaccinated and masked,
I won't get
they are trading
vaccinated.
the,
I will not get vaccinated
okay, for
unless
whatever.
there is a dire emergency, and because once you get vaccinated, you cannot even donate blood to help people that are going through COVID. Once you get vaccinated, it does so much damage, and 97% of people before the vaccination was available survived. And not only that, Biden, Kamala, and everybody that's in the administration, including Dr. Fauci, all stated that vaccinations would not be mandated, masks would not be mandated. So now they're
Right,
going back
right.
and they are
I, I,
doubling.
I am one. I'm for vaccinations. I wish they would pass mandates for everybody to get
Nope,
vaccinated.
nope.
And the reason why is because I'm a 74-year-old black man, and I feel that if you are not vaccinated, At least
Your immune system is
at
compromised
least
because of the vaccination.
well, it wasn't compromised.
Yeah.
Was it compromised when I took polio? Was it
Yeah.
compromised when I
Yes.
took? Was it compromised when I took the mumps? Was it
Yes.
okay, well,
Your the way that our bodies work, we are natural healing mechanisms. We heal ourselves. Our immune systems are built. That is the whole purpose of our immune system. So if you eat right, if you're doing the exercise, and if you're moving around, all the things Dr. Fauci said a year and a half ago before it became mandated, all of the necessary things to keep your body going and functioning the way it was meant to, then your body will heal itself. You don't need it. And 97% of people survived COVID. Everybody that got it did not die. Only 3 to 4% of people that got COVID actually died from
well,
COVID.
we're not going to.
I'm just
Well,
talking
what?
about numbers. I can pull up the numbers
Right,
and let you see it.
right.
I can send you the numbers.
We'll get into vaccinations on a whole
Well,
different
yeah,
program
yeah,
because
yeah,
I
but
think.
yeah,
But go ahead, Miss
I'll
Sam.
say, I'll say, for whatever reason people choose, that's their choice to get vaccinated or not. And the point you were making, if you eat right, the body is geared towards taking care of itself. That may be true for people that take care of themselves, but what about the people that diabetes and other things come in? But getting back to, I say that that's freedom of choice of the people that decide not to get vaccinated, etc., etc. But also in taking that position, I also believe when you say that, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, you need, are you taking it further, said that if you do get sick or die, no, you're not expecting anybody to come to your
Guess
aid.
what?
You're not
If you get
you
sick and die with the vaccine, you have signed all your rights away. You can't sue nobody. You can't complain. You can't say nothing. All you
But
can
that
do is
that's
sit right in that hospital by yourself.
but the point
but
that Miss
nobody's
Sam
I
saying
is
know
that.
making.
about 4 or 5 people that got the vaccine and died from the vaccine and side
Right,
effects from the vaccine.
and all that, but that says to me that you're firmly taking that position, and I'm going to honor that position. But also with that position, to me, you're saying, if I drop dead, if I get sick, I'm not holding
I trust my immune system.
anybody responsible for getting me to the hospital. I'm
And
not
I
holding
got
anybody
life insurance,
responsible.
so my
If
children will
if
be
I
set.
if I die, I'm not holding anybody responsible for for even the funeral home to even
Guess what?
want to
But you're
bury me.
saying the same thing when you take that vaccine. You're saying the
Well,
same thing. You're
we,
just saying it silently.
here's the thing. Like I said, I don't want to
I
get
don't
into
believe,
that.
and I'm
Right
not saying
there.
I don't believe in it. It may help some people, but it's killing people and causing adverse effects without any long term studies on what it
I,
will do long term. I'm not with it. I don't want it. If I could not get it and just do the swab or whatever, I'll stay in my house. I have a quarantine lifestyle before quarantine ever exists. They said
well,
quarantine. I
hey,
said, oh, well, I've been doing this for about 5 years now. This is normal.
you know,
But do you
you,
but do
you,
you do
go ahead.
you do you okay, do you realize that within the community of folks that choose not to have the vaccine, they're choosing it for different reasons. Some of them are choosing it to be just to be, not get it to
Because they
irritate
don't trust
other
the
people.
government mostly.
Yeah, and some of them are doing it because they want to uh,
What?
this
95% of
their
people that
rights.
don't want the
Yeah, yeah,
vaccine do not trust the government with
yep.
great reason.
If they don't, if they decide to go that route and be that way, to me, your rights end where mine begin. You know
No.
where nowhere the Constitution says that you have the right to harm me or my, or to
But if
possibly
you're
carry.
vaccinated, me being unvaccinated won't hurt you. So what are
Why?
y'all worried
Why?
about?
Why?
What is
Why?
y'all
Because we
problem?
don't.
Like y'all
Number
protected. So
one,
you should be
number
happy. Like as
one.
long as you protected, like and
Hold on.
I've had
Hey,
sepsis before, so my immune system is more compromised than most people because I've had grave infection and almost died from infection before. And I still would trust my immune system any day. If I can beat sepsis, I'll trust my immune system any day before I trust that vaccine.
Well,
Anyways.
And you know,
And
but the
if
thing about
tomorrow
and
it,
God
I
said he
believe,
wanted to prove a point, I'm O positive blood type, so I'm probably gonna be asymptomatic.
I'm old
I,
positive.
and I believe what you say. I firmly believe that you mean what you're saying. While at the same time, there's an advantage there in terms of people that um, they don't accept taking the vaccine, etc., etc. They are invisible. They're not saying, declaring openly, "Hey, I've chose not to have this vaccine. If you don't want to come near me, I'm letting you know, etc., etc." And then I wonder, people that choose that route and they have children, when the children grow up, what will they think about the path that their parents showed,
Yeah, my
especially if the
children
child? Yeah.
specifically talk about all of these things, and I know that based on technology now, we have a lot more information available than it was available when they was doing the vaccines when we were children, and they told you you had to, so you felt obligated. Although there's religious reasons why you can opt out of vaccines anyways for any vaccine. No
Yeah.
child in school has to be
that,
vaccinated
that,
against anything. All they got to do is send a religious waiver to say, because of my religion, I don't want to be vaccinated. And if more people knew how harmful vaccinations could be, like autism, like all of the other things that
Dr.
happen
Casey,
after people get
did you
vaccinated, then
take
it would change a
vaccines?
lot.
Did you take vaccines when you were in the service?
The last vaccines I got were the vaccines that was mandated when I went to Iraq. After that, I have had no more Matter of fact, I got the flu shot a couple of times, and guess what? Every time I got it, I got deathly sick. So no, I don't want nothing else that the government has to
But
offer. Matter of fact, they almost killed me 5 years ago, so I really don't want nothing
but
that they have to offer, and I'm suing them right now. So I feel like that if I go and get vaccine, they gonna see my name come across the thing, and say, "Oh shit, she's suing us for this amount of money. We need to go ahead and off her. Let's go ahead and get, hey, Miss Myers, we got another vaccine over here that we're gonna give you." So I'm really cautious. I really got some real reservations because like right now, I got a federal case in the court where I'm going up against them by myself. So yeah, I
Yeah.
don't want nothing that the government got to offer right now
Okay.
unless it's
Okay.
America.
okay,
Just
all
what?
right.
Just one question, and then I'm going to move on from the. For clarity, am I hearing you say, of the choices you made not to have the vaccine, etc., etc., that if you drop dead, that everybody just leave you alone, let you lay there and rot?
What you
And
mean? Who said that, ma'am? Do you want to lay there and rot when you in the nursing home? You just got out of
I'm
a
saying,
rehab facility. That's a little bit harsh for you to say, do I want to lay there and rot? You being
no,
vaccinated, guess what? No, Miss Sims, hold on. Being vaccinated, if you catch COVID and die in the hospital, just because you vaccinated does not mean that people gonna be able to come and see you. If you get the COVID right now and get put in the hospital, can't nobody come and see you just because you vaccinated. Guess what?
No, no,
You can
you're
catch
right.
COVID right
that's
now.
right.
Wait,
That's
wait,
right.
wait,
That's
wait,
right.
wait. If you catch COVID right now vaccinated, you can give it to somebody else that's fully vaccinated. You can give it to somebody that's unvaccinated. You are more dangerous than me any day because guess what? You think that you're safe because you're vaccinated, but you're still passing COVID.
There's no hundred. I'm not
Hold on.
saying that there's no 100% proof of
Vaccination,
anything.
vaccination, and immunization are two different things.
Not really.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. Because you can get vaccinated, and like you said, you can still get COVID. You can
You
still
can get
pass
vaccinated
COVID
with
on.
chickenpox and still get chickenpox.
Precisely. So
That's an
there,
immunization shot.
so there's a difference in when you say just because I'm vaccinated, that doesn't mean that I can't get COVID. That doesn't mean I can't pass it on. What a
You can
Right.
get
vaccine?
polio. You got
What
vaccinated for
what
polio. You can still get polio.
what? If I get polio, I'm going to be the
But
most
do you
famous.
but you
I'm going to be
understand
the
what I'm
most
saying though,
famous
right?
man on earth, and my family is going to be rich.
But do you
So
understand what I'm
I
saying
would
though?
rather.
Yeah,
I
if COVID
understand.
got me, if COVID, I just had a cousin die from complications surrounding COVID. last
Yeah,
month. If COVID
I
got
had
me,
one
my,
too.
my children gonna be straight. My children ain't never got to do nothing else but invest their money for the rest of their life. So I'm not worried about COVID. I'm more worried about making sure that I'm instilling values in my children while I'm here on this
Okay.
earth, and I'm planting good seeds in every person that I talk to, in every upload that I do on Speaking Freedom TV, so that no matter what I do, if I die tomorrow, guess what? I got 500 episodes of me encouraging people that my children can release and do whatever they want to with it. So as long as I'm doing that, I ain't worried about COVID. I don't
Yeah.
be
And
around a lot of
No, no,
I
no.
like
Like
believe.
I
people
said.
anyways. This is perfect for me because I don't like COVID.
No, no.
I really believe you because of what you're saying. Because the few times that I've talked to you and dialogue with you, the content of your character shows just what you said, instilling values, etc., in your children and knowing what's right, not only for you but other people. I truly believe that where where you're coming from, and I will honor that the position that you're taking, but I certainly agree that there's no 100% sure of anything in this world that is not going to happen to you. And so it's here again. It really gets down to the bottom line. It's a matter of choice. You chose not
It,
to. We choose to. Okay.
Yeah, but y'all
yeah.
was before I told y'all that I chose not to. Y'all was over there about to go in
No,
on the
no.
non-vaccinated.
Uh-uh.
I
Hold on, Miss
knew.
Sims. Hold on. I ain't vaccinated, so don't go in too bad,
No,
cause
now.
You like you
wait.
so
Hold on.
you protect, yeah,
I'm a,
you fully protected yourself from me crossing that line with you, and I honor that. I did not cross that line, and I am just with Saturday coming. I was in a hospital for 7 days and literally just coming out of a aftercare rehab center in regards to people. You have to mask and only one, you have to set up an appointment to come one at a time, only 1 hour. So what you're saying in terms of facility, I'm just reiterating what you said. It's not 100% sure of anything, but as far as, and I act under the guise of, hey, you got to think about what's going on and what risks are you willing to take and not take. Bottom line, it gets back to what we're saying. It's how you choose,
Yeah.
your choice, and how you choose, and being willing to pay the consequences, one
Right.
way or
That's
the
what I'm
other.
saying.
That's
When it comes
that's
to
the point.
COVID, my children, they go to school. They, even though that they just lifted the mask mandate, they were still wearing masks. When they come home, they got
Mm-hmm.
to get straight in the shower. They not sitting around, laying around in them outside clothes with COVID
They're
going
not
on.
gonna give it to you, huh? They're not gonna give it
They
to
need
you.
that elderberry just in case they need some elderberry and some vitamin C. Like, I'm
You
not
gonna pop
acting
them
like
up
I
before
ain't.
they go.
COVID
You
ain't
gonna
real.
pop them up
I
before they go back out.
Listen, I am not acting like COVID is not real. I am fully
Right,
aware
I
that people
understand that.
may die
Yeah.
from COVID, and some people may die from COVID. I fully understand that. And I understand if you aren't able to look at the numbers and see the real numbers versus the way, the media kind of makes it be what they want it to be. They highlight it in a way to where it will put fear in you. So the people that got the shot, I don't knock them. And some people that got it because they can't work without it. That's cool, but I already live a kind of secluded life. Like, I don't like to go to the club. I don't like to do all the things people my age do. Most of the time I don't have the energy to do it because of my medical stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
but I am, I have a full office. I have everything that I need in my house. So if I never have to leave my house, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? So my situation is a little bit different. Some
Yeah.
people have to leave their house. Some people have to
Well,
go and operate and be in the world. I
Yeah.
don't. So I'm
I
fortunate to
don't
be able to choose.
Yeah.
I don't have to leave my house, but like you said there, like for instance, I'm going to get my booster Wednesday.
You're gonna be
And
needing boosters forever,
and,
Mr. James.
hey, I've been getting boost. I get a booster for the flu shot every year. I get a booster for the shingle shot every year. So me, it's just another shot, but that's me. But once again, for my safety, I'm getting on an airplane. I'm going to Las Vegas. I don't know what those other people have done. So this is for my immunity. I didn't get the shot for you. I got the shot for me. I could care less. I mean, and I'm not,
No, no,
I'm
no, I
kind of,
get it. I mean,
you know,
I wish if everybody felt like that,
Just
it wouldn't be so tense.
yeah,
just an observation. I'm looking at two people coming from two different aspects of an issue,
yeah,
and both of you are still alive. So there you
yeah,
go.
yeah,
And I wish you well. I wish you well. Keep doing what you feel is going to keep you alive and well.
yeah,
No, and I've said this. I have a whole episode about this. Look, if I have to, like, I want to travel, and I'm trying to really kind of wait it out and see what they end up doing, because a lot of things that they try to do, they can't really do. But if enough people go along with it, then it'll kind of go. So they'll slide through it. It's like the immunity. If enough people don't, if people made a fuss about it, we could change a lot more than what we do. But if nobody say nothing and everybody go along with it, then if I have to travel to, what I'm saying, get COVID shot to travel, then I'll get it when they refine it a couple times. Y'all got the new one. I want the one that's tested, that they didn't, ran through some trials and now they didn't came back and
I'm
and
going.
and got it right.
I had all of, well, I said the confidence that in the Moderna shot, I would not get the Johnson and Johnson or the AstraZeneca. I was, but I felt that I did my research and I did what was best for me, and that's all I could. But
I'm just not confident in it at this point. It hasn't been a in function enough to get enough long term results. It's like the FDA, they
well,
approved tobacco at one point. They approved
sure,
baby
they
powder
improved.
at one point. They
They,
approved a
they,
lot of
they,
stuff, and then they be like, "Hold on, oh oops." If
yeah,
you've been harmed by herniated mesh, please call this number. You might have a lawsuit. I don't want to have to call that dang on number. They be fooling me.
Yeah,
yeah.
in bottom line, in thinking and going back, one of the consequences of allowing people to choose the way they want, etc., and while people are still getting it and dying and being sick, to me, it borders on the line of social engineering, and then also on the borderline of genocide, quietly,
Well,
in regards to the powers that be allowing that to take place, and people that choose not to get vaccinated, they are, like I said before, they have the option or the privilege of still quietly moving among people and possibly carrying it to other people, while they may
But our
never get
health
it
our
of
health
their quiet
records are
self.
supposed to be private. I should not have to show you or prove to you anything. I
That's
don't have to prove
I'm
to a
not
person
saying
before I
that.
have sex that I got, like a person, Charlie Sheen can go and have sex with a million damn women and he ain't got to pull out I'm a HIV free person at no point. But as soon as they say, and the crazy part is, it shows the amount of control that the government has. And when you say genocide, my mind doesn't think that being unvaccinated is the genocide. My mind thinks that the control of the mindset that they can have, that they can make you go and burn out all the gas. They can make you go and purchase all the tissue. They can make all they got to do is say one word and your ass gonna jump. And for a lot of people, that's the way life is. So the puppeteer is controlling what he's doing, what they supposed to be doing.
And
See,
I'm not saying
and
that.
for me,
And I,
I look at y'all as a 39-year-old, or I'll be 39 at the end of this month, and I'm trying to figure out how are y'all so trusting of the government and the
What,
establishment
what,
after
what, what,
y'all have lived so
oh,
much and seen
oh,
so much.
hold on. What makes you think that I trust the government?
I mean, just
I don't think that there's any time. And if you look at the subjects that I put forth in this podcast, I mean,
that
either
vaccine say you trust the government despite your words
no, no,
might
no,
say
no, no,
something,
no,
but
no, no, no,
your
no, no.
actions.
The vaccine, me and the vaccine has nothing to do with me trusting the government.
right.
Me and the
I don't know
vaccine
about that
has
because
had
the
me.
government told you to take it. The government
No,
told
no,
you
no,
you
no, no,
needed
no,
it.
no, no, no.
If the government if the government
The
No,
didn't tell
that's
you
government,
that
not
you
right.
needed it, would you have taken it?
what
If
if
the government didn't say that you needed it or tried to mandate it, would you have taken it? Did you want the vaccine last year?
yes I did. Yes, I did. Just like I wanted the shingle shot every year since 1980. Just like I wanted the pneumonia shot every year since 2000.
That's
No,
trusting the government.
no, it's not. It's
Shit, if
protecting
that ain't trusting
it,
the
it
government, then I don't know what is.
it's protecting my health. I was the one.
But
I
you're
was the one.
trusting the
Hold on, hold
government
on,
to
hold on,
protect your health. You're
hold on.
trusting what they're
Right.
saying.
Hold on. I was the one that was in the VA hospital sitting in a wheelchair when all of a sudden two nurses come down and wheel me into a room to get two stents because I had a heart attack. I didn't know that I had a heart attack until they hooked me up to an EKG machine. As a matter of fact, I didn't know I had a heart attack until they got me up there and put the stents in me. Is that trusting the government or is that
Well,
saving my life?
I have an opposite experience. I didn't know that I had a bowel obstruction until I put them in a deposition and I forced them to tell me what happened in my surgery. I didn't know I almost died in surgery until I put them on the stand and made them in the deposition tell me what it was.
All right.
If I would not have pursued my lawsuit, the government would have never told me what happened to me. So
right.
your experience at the VA is totally different than mine.
Right. That's precisely what I'm saying. It's not. It's because of our experiences. It's not necessarily because the government this or the government that.
This
I
is
don't
why I
trust
don't
the
trust the
government.
government.
I mean,
The
See,
immunity,
I have never put it in place that the government is all powerful or
right.
the savior of us all. To me, when you're in the government, you're in a job.
when you're
You're
talking
in a
about
job, and I
mandates,
expect you to do your job.
that's what the police officers think they're doing when they killing people. They doing
Well,
their job.
No. They
pe-
don't.
pe-
They don't
They
think they're
think that
doing
I
their
they're
mean,
job.
doing their
it's just
job,
like the
and
president.
when they go to
The
court, they're gonna say they doing their job every time they kill somebody, and they can
I
justify
don't.
it. They doing their job.
I guess that, and I know a lot of people that think of the government as an entity, the be all, the end all. I
No, it's
don't.
just a
I
business
don't.
corporation.
It's just
Yeah.
a job with people in power that have strategized to keep and control power to control other people. I don't. I mean, I don't put them on a pedestal. I'm ready to deal with them as they come, and I know that there are consequences, and sometimes you have to choose between the worst of or two evils or the
The
one that
less.
you
The
I don't
can
lesser
believe
two
in it.
erupt
evils.
or whatever.
I don't want the lesser
And
of
here
two
again,
evils. I don't want no
freedom
evil.
of choice. Here again, hey, I'm looking at you, both of you guys. I'm glad you're alive. I'm glad to be able to share and talk to you. I wish you well. Continue to live and
Oh,
grow
I got.
strong.
I only. If you go into court, the mandates. My mandate is to live another 26 years. So I don't know. I don't care whether it can be through government shots. But I got 26
Hey,
more
so
years to
so
live.
so if they gave you the option to clone yourself, you would clone yourself to live another 26 years.
If they gave me the option to clone
If they gave
myself,
you like the option, they have. I just seen a article. I have
if
to
I if I
find it
if I
to
had the
where
chance,
they can
if I
upload
had
your
the chance to
consciousness.
if I had the chance to clone myself and make 100,000 more, I would be in the line tomorrow. Okay.
Hey, Mr. King, didn't we go through this last week that even at your age, our mind is a terrible thing to waste? Now you're getting
That's
ready
right.
to go and waste your brain cells out there thinking like that. We need to
I
rein you
literally,
in and draw you
Hey,
back.
hey,
listen.
look here,
I
look,
literally the other
hey,
day just seen an article where they can download your consciousness and put it on like an avatar. So
oh,
I mean, I'm just asking.
with I don't consider the Avatar a living. I mean, that's a depiction of me, but I do intend to do everything within my power to live to be 101. Now, if I
I
live,
agree.
now if I live to be
And a vibrant 101 too, not
right,
barely,
right. No,
struggling, hurting.
I don't want to be a vegetable or living under with tubes. I want to be
That's
just
my
like I am
comparison.
now. And if I live to be 102, then that's so be it. But that's my goal to live to be 101. Now, and like I said, whatever it takes. What you might say it's a government mandate or whatever, but if I have to take a booster shot every year, I'll be right there in line. If I,
I
when
feel you, Mr. James. I understand.
when I had high blood pressure and they changed my diet and told me I couldn't eat collard greens and cornbread no more, I was mad as hell. But
Mr.
now I
James.
learned that I can cook my collard greens with a turkey leg. Okay, so I can make things healthy, as best I can. So hey, uh, I'm just trying to live. And I
Uh,
guess as they say, by any means necessary. But that's
Well, I
uh,
think
uh,
that
Dr. Casey, Dr. Casey,
uh,
at our age and the things that we've gone through, how can we trust the government? The other side of that is because of the things we've gone through, and not putting the government on a pedestal, because of the things we've gone through and seen and assessed and evaluated, we make the decisions that we do. So there's that
I mean,
two
no, and
sided.
I
There's at
definitely
least two sides to
understand that.
everything. Yeah, yeah,
I mean, it's definitely several sides to every situation, and the
yeah,
perspectives
yeah.
change because your experience, like his experience, our VA experiences probably started similar, and then my
yeah.
last
True.
experience changed greatly,
Yeah,
and then it
yeah.
was like,
That's right.
I advocated for the VA for a long time. I used to be in there like, why
Mm.
y'all complaining? It's free. Da, 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 da. And then they fucked me over, and then it's like, wait a minute, hold on. Just because it's
Yeah,
free don't mean they can
yeah.
treat you any type of way. You know
See,
what I'm
you
saying?
change your mind. Your experiences change your mind. Man,
Perspective.
you
Yeah.
reevaluate where you needed to come from for your survival, health wise, mentally, and emotionally. So more power to you in regards. You know where your experiences that you've gone through, good, bad, and ugly, have probably put you in the position that you are to rethink things, think things through the way that you see that's best for you and your family and loved ones. And I'm glad the three of us can come from different positions and recognize that, and respect it. Respect
I
all
mean, yeah,
that.
I don't think that either one of y'all was wrong. I just didn't want y'all to go in unvaccinated because I felt it in my spirit.
I
It was
saw the
coming,
line. Hey,
and I was like, hold on.
I'm glad you put that line out there and let it know where that line was. I didn't go near that line. I don't know. James got close, but I didn't go near it.
Well,
I stayed
I
back
already,
and
I already knew.
watched him go closer and closer. And you,
Well,
let him have it.
yeah. I mean,
So he had to withdraw.
Listen, my grandmother was feisty, and I had to grow up kind of defending myself against my grandmother. And she used to always, just be. And I used to have to look, no, 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 because she used to
Mm-mm.
not be mean, but she used to be a civil servant. She worked in she was an SCLC. She did elections. Like she
Mm-mm.
really had us in the political field. My
Right,
uncle was killed when he was like 19 or 20, way before I was born. So she had a lot of involvement in a lot of different things, and it made her
right.
really hard on us. But that
Mm.
made me really tough because I would, so this gives me that feeling that I used to have with my grandmother when I used to go up there
Mm.
from Atlanta,
Right.
and she would talk about the crime in Dayton. I'd be like, but the crime in Atlanta is not that bad. And she'd be like, yes, it is. And I'm like, it's a bigger place. So when you get a bigger place, it's not as much as when it's a lot in a small area. So, I respect y'all and I apologize if I ever cross, that line. I've come up around a real feisty grandma and I've had to defend myself a lot
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. And I'll just say, you have a line, and I have a line, and even Mr. King has a line, even though he goes back and forth over his quite often, and he don't vary, he don't move. He has a line.
uh, no, but my line moves according to the conversation. you know, and I think that that's kind of what makes the program a little bit different because we can go through a lot of different subjects, and even though we might have a printed out agenda that we're supposed to go through,
Because this is
uh,
totally
you know,
off.
we can,
Dr. Casey threw it off. She threw it off.
Miss Sims,
Get
you
on
mentioned
her. She
Miss
she
Sims, you the
did it.
one mentioned the vaccine. As soon as you mentioned the vaccine, it went due east.
But you stepped right in it. You stepped in it.
I'ma take the bait. I'ma always take the bait.
So, uh, but
Oh
yeah, I
goodness.
mean, as always, we have a great conversation, and I think that's more about what this is about is being able to communicate with each other and express different points of view.
Yeah, I
Uh,
agree.
It's the only way
so
to grow.
yeah, so Ms. Sims, as I was saying, we've seen the elections, in your particular city. Is there any particular things that you would like to point out in this last election, that you thought it might turn out different other than where you say the councilman in Ward 5 or councilman?
Yeah, I live in Ward 5. I think it's I couldn't I couldn't and don't seem to be able to. I don't know why to convince the past electors of the city council and the present ones that they are missing out on great opportunities in regards to not looking at and dealing with this light a blue line extension thing. It's 1 point, no, it's up to $2 billion thing right now. They haven't been at the table. They need to get at the table. There's aren't trained for it yet, but there's opportunity to see that people get trained for these jobs that are coming, etc., and a lot of things that they were, ex- um, you know, claiming in their campaign ads. Them paying attention to this light rail and money fit right into what things that they were saying. They for political reasons, and I understand people have their strategies, but to the reality and bottom line thinkers, it still isn't making sense, and it's gonna be interesting to see if and when they get in there and start representing this community and all of its residents instead of hanging in there with their self-interest and doing that power play type thing.
Ms. Sims, out here in San Diego, we are also, well, San Diego and Los Angeles, a lot of our major cities are going through these light rail buildups. And like you mentioned, most of these contracts or most of these proposals have been through for the last decade, some even more. I mean, we're using Obama money out here in California. That's how long,
Hmm.
so uh, the bottom line, or I guess what I'm trying to ask is if we've known that these things have been in place for the last decade, why are we just training people for these jobs now? And do, I don't know about you, but I haven't seen a lot of these jobs out here that have been filled by people of color.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons is because our attention and self-interest have been elsewhere on various other things like the police or schools, etc. And it's okay to have those interests, and we need those interests, but you don't put all your just like a you don't send all your soldiers to one spot. You got to divide people up in regards to trying to cover as many bases as you can, and a lot of missed opportunities are going down the wayside. North Minneapolis is is a closed. We are a system that we're landlocked, intentionally through the years. And so this opportunity and another opportunity regarding the Upper Harbor Terminal has unexpectedly evolved in regards to giving people the opportunities, if they think about it and will deal with it, to not only propel right now, but also to set up where you think ahead in regards to your family and black folk in terms of prosperity into the future and passing it down. But you got to get in there. You get and like the other five cities, which are four cities that are mostly involved along the corridor. They're basically white suburban cities, and there are even more suburban cities that have looked at this, and now they want to get, even though the line isn't going through their cities, it involves transportation, so they're looking. They want to come in at the table with voting rights and et cetera, et cetera. And maybe because me and a lot of other people that have been in there dealing with this since 2010, we see and we know the background and dynamics of what's going on, and we're trying to pass it down here again. I think our generation, my generation, and Mr. King's generation, I don't think we passed down a lot of enough information to other generations in regards to thinking and be aware of, et cetera, et cetera. And that's one
I
reason
agree.
I've hung in there as long as I have, even though I just recently retired from my organizing job. The other organization that I work with asked me to stay connected with them in terms of being kind of a consultant type, et cetera, et cetera. And I agreed to it because I personally thought about it and felt like I need to be pass on more information wherever I can, because I'm 72 years old and nobody lives forever. If you live long enough, you're gonna die. Nobody, you can't stop that. So here we go.
Any social media that you might have, Miss Sims, or anywhere else somebody might want to get in touch with you?
I'm on just on Facebook, and I resisted that for years. But I belong. When my son went into the military, I became more involved and asking questions. And even though I'm not a veteran, I belong to two various women's military groups, and I'm the outreach coordinator for the Black Vets of America here in Minneapolis. And so forgot the question, but so I'm in there trying to deal with things the best way I can. And oh, I know, and that I resisted going doing Facebook, but when I started coming in contact with the younger generation, like Dr. Casey, and that's how they communicated, and they wanted to communicate with me. Then I knew I had to evolve and go on and take that step into Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't tune to everything. So I'm on Facebook under LA Sims.
Thank you so much. Uh, Dr. Casey, uh, come on,
Yes.
we butt heads every week, so you know.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna watch. I'm gonna watch. Go ahead. Go. There you go. Ding, 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 ding. Go.
uh, but yeah, give us your final thoughts for the evening, and tell everybody where they can find you on social media, and don't forget to plug your what well, you have so much going on. Like you just tell people, it's no need.
He can't remember. He can't remember. That's what
You
it,
got look
he
the
thinks
lady.
he's slick.
Look,
I
she
told you. There you
right.
go.
Hey,
He can't.
she has books out there. I think
She
she's got at
does. She
least three or
does. Good
four
for her.
books.
Yep.
She runs her
You're
own. She
right.
has
You're
her
right.
own
Good for her. Yeah.
podcast. So I mean,
You have a reason. You have it's valid. You have your reasons are valid for not for forgetting. She's she's all over the place. She's too famous. She does too much. She needs to draw a line someplace around it to stop it, or choose one.
Everything that I do is normally from home, from the comforts of my home. My final thoughts. I think that vaccination should be something that's a choice, because there is no guaranteed protection. When it comes to policing and just dealing with community based issues in general, I definitely agree with Miss Sims when it comes to not enough knowledge being passed down, not enough understanding and information so that we can make more informed and better decisions so that we can do something different, because if
Right.
we don't know what worked or what didn't work, then there's no way to really progress in a way that will in the future work or that we could change. And I have a theory in my spiritual human behavior book that will be out next year. And it is that as you go and progress in life, you have to change the things that does not work. It may not be changing everything. It may be just a little small thing here, a little
I
small
agree.
thing there, and enough small changes will make a huge impact. So when we look at things in that narrative, if we make the small changes, then we'll get a lot further. But in order to make the changes, we have to have the information. So in an age where still people don't read books and they're audio books, a lot of the books that I read now, I have over 180 books that's on audio books.
Thank you.
And so I get a lot of information so that I am as aware as possible. So that I can have conversations with anybody that I come across, and so that I can learn the information and regurgitate it in a way that people in my generation, people that talk the way I talk, people that cuss the way I cuss, people that view things from a similar perspective can take it and really take it in. Because a lot of the people that I'm going to reach won't read a book, they won't do the
Yeah.
work. So if I'm able to help them get the information, then I feel like I've done my part, which is how I got to Speaking Freedom TV. That is my it's a podcast, but it's not really. It's more of a community-based coaching that is free. So if you go online and look it up on YouTube, I have an actual Roku app that is Speaking Freedom TV, and I give all types of topics. At this point, I have talked about political things. I have season 3 right now is on marriage and relationships. So I talks about some of my issues with getting into another marriage or relationship. I talk about things that I see in the social media and in the world so that other people can have a well-rounded perspective on different narratives so they can make better decisions. Because if you see one person make a blooper, like Future, y'all might not be familiar with Future. He got a lot of kids by a lot of women. He don't like half the women he got kids by, but he keep having kids. If I talk about it in a way to where people can say, look, he is not valuing his sperm in a way to where he won't be laying babies everywhere. Don't be like that. This is a way that you can do better. Then somebody else can hear it and learn and grow from it. So, Speaking Freedom TV, speakingfreedom.org, edu freedom.org. That is where you can find all of my books. I have 4 faith books that comes with 4, well, that you can buy with 4 workbooks so that you can work on your faith, so that you can work on your purpose. And I have a lot of books in the works, but there are a lot of episodes for Speaking Freedom TV that I'm pushing out right now.
Are you writing this down, Mr. King? I'm writing it down. You know you're not going to remember all that.
I can instant replay though, so that's
Okay. All right.
Convenience.
good. All right, ladies. Thank you so much. I look forward to
All
talking
right.
to you again. Hopefully, we'll have a different discussion next week.
Yeah.
No more
Peace
vaccine
and
talk.
love.
All
Peace
right.
and love. Good night.
Peace and
Good
love.
night.
Good night. Good
Minneapolis,
night.
North Minneapolis. Good
All
night.
right. Good night.
So you had some other people that were going to come in. Did you want me to stay on, or are they
You
even coming?
you you can stay if you like. Brother Williams is here. Mr. Bill Carroll is here. You can stay. It's up to you.
If you want to kick me out because somebody else come and you don't have enough space, then let me know, okay?
I got enough space for 10 people. I know.
Oh,
I
oh,
know.
oh, okay.
I know you take up 4 of them, but we still have 6 left. So,
You
Brother
ain't
Williams,
playing fair.
how are you doing tonight, Brother Williams?
I'm doing good, brother.
As you know, Dr. Casey, or maybe you don't, but I think that you've been here. You know who Brother Williams is. the head of the San Diego Black Panther Party, and of course, we finish out the show every week. Every week, and Mr. Bill Carroll is sitting over there in the wings. Bill, how are you doing this evening?
Oh, you muted.
Your lips are moving, but we can't hear you. Well, that's all right. I guess we'll get you in here in a minute. But Brother Williams, we kind of started out. We got way off the subject, so as usual. But uh, getting back to our initial question here, uh, Black conservatives caring more about cash than they do human rights, and I also said women's rights. But what is your take as far as the agenda of Black conservatives? And I mean, uh, let's not get it twisted. I'm not saying that the Democrats are our saviors, but as Miss Sims was saying, maybe some people consider them the lesser of two evils. But within our community, it does seem that we're also being attacked from the inside out.
I got an echo from you.
That might be from you. I'm not
My
sure.
mic was muted.
Bill?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Let me see somebody's mic. We got to see it. Go ahead, Mr. Williams. I'll check it
Okay.
out and see what's going on here.
All right, I can hear you now. Without the echo. Well, I kind of like the way Casey put it, and I want to elaborate a little bit on that because she stated, and we say this all the time, and people get away with saying this when they shouldn't, the lesser of two evils. And I think the problem that we run into with that being so mainstream and so norm, and also that being a to me falling under what I call a coping mechanism, which basically states that I am powerless, and so therefore I rather dish my poison out in a small dosage versus taking a larger dose at once. But nonetheless, I'm okay taking that poison. And I think the problem that we run into is that with the perspective of knowing that from a political structure and standpoint overall that we're being poisoned, it goes back to what I constantly refer to all the time, and that's as a people being in a position to where we're more out to deal with self-determination. Now, part of the problem with that has to do with obviously, especially at a national level, overall, when you have a minority of people dealing with a situation where they're trying to put themselves in any position of authority, then obviously that tends to be a no-win situation in that arena, which goes back into why, like we used to talk a few months ago about that book that was written by a brother Blow that dealt with the devil that if y'all are familiar with that. And the idea here is dealing with a concentration of our people in any particular area to where we can make a difference, at least on a local level as it applies to politics. But now at the same time, I will use Atlanta as an example. Atlanta, I would say, is full of Black conservatives. Why? Because anytime you start talking about economics, again, over the people, then folks want to cater toward an environment or a political structure that meets their economic needs or meets their needs in terms of where they're trying to position themselves politically or economically or from a business standpoint. So it's overall assumed and understood that as it applies to big business or as it applies to business in general across the board or economics across the board, the conservative view is the one that is going to show more favoritism. So we get caught up in these in what I refer to as polarity as it applies to the overall politics of one party versus the other, versus dealing with things from the best person for the job. And that's really to me where everything really should lean. In other words, we shouldn't be, as especially as a people, so dogmatic and so stuck to just a a hard line perspective on this party or that party, but actually deal with each individual candidate and what they have to bring to the table. And obviously that's taken with a grain of salt, because from that standpoint, when people are running for office, they tend to want to run with the party that's going to get them elected, and oftentimes their individual viewpoints on politics starts warping and changing just because they want to get elected. And so initially they may have one motive that they may even throw out there on the campaign trail, but then when they get into office, because we have not been a people that really hold our elected officials accountable, then they run left field with it, or they just go right into the main, the main status quo in terms of what we deal with politics.
The sheep need that the wool cut from over their eyes. So I have a question, Mr. Williams,
Yes,
because when I think about Republicans and Democrats, my mind instantly goes back to the fact that Republicans were actually black in the initial
right.
stages of democracy, and so it just makes me kind of more up in the air about politics now, knowing that at one point Republicans were black and the Democrats were white and against all of the things that we needed. So what really made it change? It's almost like what I was saying about Sleepy Joe. He was been Sleepy Joe for all these years and all of this bad black community stuff and African Americans this, and then he ready to go get elected. He's gonna tell us all the things that's going rock us to sleep, and now he's getting in there and doing the same things that he was preaching and talking about 20 years ago. So like, what line, or is there a line when you look at the fact that it started off as Republicans being black?
Well, I don't really feel like there's a line from that perspective. I think that what happens to the masses of our people is that one president in particular may have made I would say, made a social impact on in terms of the perspective or perception. And see, that's part of the problem. A lot of times we run off the perception. For instance, if you go back in the day, I remember people, and I don't know where this rumor started, but I remember people actually thinking that Bill Clinton was black because he played a saxophone and catered to some of the talk shows that were black at the time. And all of a
Rock us to
sudden,
sleep.
yeah, because of again the social perspective, and that social perspective is also oftentimes the illusion that we fall for when we draw the party lines, as well as keep in mind the black church played a big role in terms of portraying or projecting certain people out there. And I think over time, we get caught up in just what I call habitual patterns as it applies to, hey, this is the party, this is the party, this is the party. And I mean, it even goes back to why, like for instance, the Black Panther Party in Laos County, Alabama, use the logo of the Panther to try to get our people to recognize who to vote for and what to vote for. Unfortunately, we still find to this day most of our people don't read, don't study, don't go back and do their research, and fall for the perception and the campaign trail rhetoric when they make their decisions. And so it's just there's not enough diligence being done on when it comes to politics in electoral from the electoral standpoint, period, to where most people are going to give it their time. And then once someone gets into office, thinking back on that whole lesser of two evils perspective, we've already got our mind made up that they were going to do wrong, and that they really wasn't going to do what was in our best interest. but you throw us a bone or two, that's better than that's better than nothing. It's to me it's just asinine, but that's kind of the way things tend to go. And it's because when we think politics, generally speaking, within the black community, all most people think about is voting. They don't actually think about helping to build up from a grassroots level candidates that will be in that will be in our best interest. And then from that standpoint, how do these candidates also get elected on a ticket if they run anything outside of the Democratic or Republican Party? So now you're dealing with certain levels of compromise. I would
Uh,
like Bill to speak on that if he can.
yeah, Bill, unmute yourself. No, we still can't hear you. Your lips are moving, but we're not hearing you. Go out and come back in. Let's see. Can you, Bill? I'm not sure what's going on with Bill. We can't hear that. We're getting some feedback from you, Bill.
Okay, hold on.
Go back and come back in.
We was able to hear him, but we got that feedback once his mic unmuted. It's
Yeah.
like he's listening in on his computer and on the radio or something like that, or watching the
Yeah.
broadcast as he's on it.
Did you have some more? Did you have anything else you wanted to add to that, Dr. Casey?
The world is so pre-planned in a very unplanned way. Like it's an experiment, but it's one that's like, okay, well, if we do these things, then these are the likely results, and then we're going to go that way until it don't work no more, and then we're going to do something else. And it it's it's a lot because again it goes back to what I was saying about trusting the government because and when I'm talking about trusting the government is I'm not talking about the business of the United States because that's the LLC. I'm talking about trusting the people that have already proven through their behavior patterns that they're not trustworthy. And oftentimes we leave it as a scapegoat. We're looking for a scapegoat, what they said, what they, and because of the lack of responsibility and accountability, it allows us to be led astray too often. Like if you don't vote for Joe, you're not black. Like why the hell did people go for that? I don't understand. I never understood that because he had a history of certain rhetoric that was, like continuous.
But
So
so did that
it's a
other.
lot of
But so
trickery.
did that other guy too, though. I mean, if you had if you had a choice, I mean, like you said, to me,
The person is going to be honest over the person is going to play politics. At least with Trump,
that
we knew what we were going to do. We knew what's coming. With Joe,
well,
we don't know what's going. What we don't know. Joe sleep.
you could, I guess it's because I actually had some personal dealings with Trump and as far as trying to rent. So,
Well, no, see, and I sent
so
letter when this stuff first happened with the VA when I first was in the hospital with sepsis, when they first was not giving me treatment, when I was first complaining about it, I sent emails to President Obama. I sent emails to Trump administration and Trump administration that in 2017 I sent the email. By June of 2017 there was some type of veteran law that was being put in place to stop some VA people from doing as much as they was doing. So I don't
but,
like Trump and the
but he
stuff that he
also
be
tried to
saying. And
he tried to privatize the VA also.
it needs to be privatized. That's the reason why they so damn rampant now. The things that we were just saying about them being able to do and treat people and all of that is because there is no oversight. They're overseeing themselves. So guess what? If I gotta oversee myself and I gotta tell you that I'm wrong, if I don't want to be wrong, I'm not telling you that I'm wrong because I'm overseeing myself. Who's gonna get me if I'm over me? You can go call the manager, but if I'm the manager, then guess what? You ain't getting nowhere. Where you going? What you gonna get done if you thinking that you complaining to the manager and then I just changed my voice, but it's still me. It's still me.
Well, Trump was the same thing. I mean, those people that he appointed, I mean, what was the difference between what the Trump administration did as an administration for the veterans, as compared to, like you say, Obama or any of the other ones? I haven't seen any change in the VA administration since
Literally, he
2000.
just put the law
Yeah,
that he signed into place, literally stop doctors and people from getting bonuses when they do messed up stuff. I can't say that it was because I wrote in, but I know that I wrote in and then that was something that happened. I
but
complained a
but
lot.
the policy
When
was
I
there
complained to
before Trump.
Obama's administration, they didn't do nothing. They didn't blink a damn eye. But when I complained to Trump, when I complained, because I went down I was the secretary of the VA, probably know my name, the new one and the old one, because I complained to them all. And I dread doing that because I know that it can be some retaliation against me because I am pro se. That means that when I go to court, I'm filing my documents. I don't got no lawyer. I am going with against the government head up. Like so, my perspective is a little bit different.
Um,
I feel like I could be a part of the Panther Party at the rate that how they dealing with me.
well, um, Brother Robert, hold on, because uh, I think Bill, we're still hearing your echo. Maybe you can hear us now. Can you hear us?
Hear you.
He came
Yeah,
in choppy.
yeah, we still can't hear you. You came in very choppy there. Um, Brother Williams, you want to follow up to what Dr. Casey was saying?
Well, the way I look at that in regards to the two examples, is I feel like Trump is a politician, but he has by having a big business background, it creates more of a competitive environment than what mainstream politics is used to. So mainstream politics, especially like what she's saying with the VA, is so inundated with administration and I don't even know what to call the word, but basically so inundated with certain middle management uh, that you can't get anywhere and you can't get anything resolved. And anytime you add a business um, environment to that, to where it creates a competitive edge, now all of a sudden the first thing that happens is just like when a business gets bought out by another business. First thing they do is they come in and they basically fire all of the middle management or fire all of the people that were in charge, and now you find yourself having to compete and prove your position. And so to some degree, yeah, Trump was able to do that, and that did benefit certain aspects of things. The problem we find with that is because his angle is all about business, and his angle is about big business as well. Is look at what the impact it has from the environmental standpoint. Look at the impact it has in terms of certain types of legislation that should be scaled back. Because, like for instance, the oil industry and anything that has to me, as being a Panther, I'm real big on the environmental factor. Obviously, Trump was pro big business, and so when it comes to environment, he wanted to look the other way of anything that can impact the environment, which affects future generations. So again, we're still talking about which type of basically I would say which type of poison do you want to be dealing with, and we can argue both because from that standpoint there was some positive things about Trump, but there's always negatives on either side of the fence. So it's not like we're basically saying somebody wasn't a liar or somebody was for our people. It's just which type of things me, are more important to you at this particular time as it applies to somebody at that high level. But us being a minority, us being the black people, nothing that was done was for us. It was just whether or not where we stand within certain things as an individual that come into play when you talk about either one. And one thing you can pretty much say about Trump is he spoke his mind, for better or for worse. He spoke his mind, which was funny to me because he always get caught up, in some of the things he said. Um, Whereas Joe Biden forgets, I would think he forgets what shirt he had on the day before. So it's a whole different thing on that note. Um, and quite honestly, I just still feel like no matter which way you go with that, you're dosing up poison.
Yeah,
So as it applies to that, it is a no-win situation from us being where we are as black people.
Bill, you want to try again?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Are you able
Oh,
to
it
hear
sounds
me?
good, Mr. Carroll.
Exactly.
So, somebody mentioned earlier about the birth of the Republican Party. Obviously, the Republican Party wasn't born until 1854, and by 1860 they had elected a president. So that lets you know something. A 6-year-old political party managed to put a man in the White House. Now, some of that was because of a bunch of historical forces that were pushing them in that way. Plus, they inherited a lot of people that used to be in what was called the Whig Party, which had just recently died and left people orphans, for lack of a way of putting it politically. The reason, obviously, that virtually every black American that was able to vote, and of course that wasn't every black American, but obviously males only, since they didn't allow women to vote, but the ones that were able to vote, and of course you still had to be close enough to where there was some, you know, union forces to enforce your right to vote. But as long as you were in a place where there was somebody to make sure that you weren't going to be prevented from voting, they voted Republican because Lincoln. I mean, it's pretty much a straight shot. Now, ironically, the president that actually did the most amongst the early Republican presidents that did the most actually for African Americans, for black people in America, was actually Ulysses Simpson Grant. Now, the problem is, well, he had twofold problems. One, he was dying of cancer, and two, he had an extremely corrupt administration, even though it was a mostly well-intentioned administration. And as the Grant administration came to an end, so did really a serious commitment to protecting black people's political rights. And that commitment would basically be dead for about 100 plus years once the Grant administration ended. There was the quote unquote corrupt bargain of 1876 that put Rutherford B. Hayes in office, but welcomed back into the political mainstream all those Southerners, all those Democratic Southerners. But not long after that, you had the Lily White movement amongst the Republicans. They purged their voting rolls also of black voters. And that's why black people stopped being Republicans, because Republicans told them to get the hell out. It wasn't like black people suddenly stopped wanting to be Republicans. They were given the heave ho. The last time there was any even semi serious commitment to including black Republicans in the Republican tint or whatever at all would have been in Teddy Roosevelt's administration. Now, he obviously finished out the second half of McKinley's administration, because obviously McKinley was assassinated while in office, and then he got elected once, and then later he ran as what was called the Bull Moose Party, which was an attempt, one of the early attempts, one of the early re-attempts at reviving a third party, I should say, because there had been third parties going back many, many years, and some of them were single issue parties, like anti-Catholics. There was an anti-Catholic party, right? You had the Know Nothings, you had the Anti-Baptist party, you had all kinds of like sort of single issue third parties. Anti-Mason, there was an anti-Masonic party that had a presidential candidate. Most people don't know this because they don't pay attention to third party politics, but once the Republican Party stopped being a party that was devoted, at all to protecting the rights of black Americans, but even protecting the rights of poor white Americans, right? They moved on from them too, and became simply a party of big business, which happened pretty completely by the time that they were butting heads with Franklin Delano Roosevelt. So by 1933, you've got Hoover, Cal Coolidge. both of whom were guys that were business school majors, right? We had mostly lawyers, but these guys were both guys. Well, one was an engineer. Let me rephrase that. Hoover was actually an engineer by training, but they went into business, and they didn't care about the law so as much. They weren't lawyers by trade, and so you had this. By this point, by the time you get to 1933, the lines have been drawn pretty much sort of the way they are now, with the Democratic Party at least saying the right things about the rights of black people, and the Republicans saying, whatever. Hey, let's talk about big business. So what? And it's funny, people talk about Trump being a big businessman. Trump is one of the least successful businessmen you'll ever run across. He's at least $280 million in debt. At least. I'm being conservative when I say that. Does anyone know what his primary source of income has been for the past almost 20 years? Anyone want to guess? Anyone? His primary source of income for about almost 2 whole decades has been licensing fees for his name. That's his primary source of income for the past coming up on 20 years. He hasn't made a dime in real estate in decades. Most people don't seem to realize that. He is an incredibly unsuccessful businessman, with the exception that people, for whatever reason, think he's successful. He's great at convincing people he's successful. He's an amazing charlatan. He is he's great at it. I've read the book that the guy that wrote his book for him, Art of the Deal, has written about what the experience was like trying to write a book with Donald Trump. So we have this person who's obsessed with letting people know. When someone keeps telling you how smart they are and how successful they are, and they do it all the time, what does that usually mean?
The opposite.
Right. So here's someone who got some gentleman C's through college, right? Who a self-made man who got handed a $7 million never pay this back loan from his daddy when he turned 21. I mean, I would be fairly successful if someone just handed me $7 million when I was 21. I could be self-made too if you did that. We have this, as you said, sort of dichotomy where it's like, would you like me to drill through your head, or would you like me to drown you, right? Let's see. I mean, drowning is sort of dignified, I guess, right? So, and drilling seems
Drowning
messy.
don't take too long. Don't drown me.
Right. Well, see, that's what I'm saying. Like you are indeed. I mean, I probably, when people say the lesser evils, I just say, well, you know, to me, the operative word is still lesser, but we would like to move to the point where maybe we're not choosing between evils.
Right.
So, like, maybe that's an idea. The reason there is no possibility for a viable third party is because the attempts that were made to reform campaign financing were all blown out of the air. We could have had, like other civilized countries, completely funded by our tax dollars. Every dollar that went towards someone running for office could have come from us, right? They wouldn't be getting money from the Koch brothers or from Bill Gates or from Zuckerberg or what. All the money would come from us. We could have had all the big money out of politics, right? It could have happened that easily. But, right, one of the most interesting court cases, Supreme Court cases, I think ever in the history, is the United, right? So when they voted, when this court case started from a documentary film of all things, right? Citizens United, and it was like a takeoff on what had happened with the film the little documentary made about John Kerry when he was running, and then Republicans sort of made fun of him in this thing, and the way it had been funded was a way that, since it was considered to be a campaign effort, like, because it wasn't just a film, it wasn't like somebody making a film to make a film, it was clearly a hit piece against John Kerry, and it had been funded in a way that was previously illegal. And so this court case, working its way up and up and up through the cases, and finally, when the Supreme Court says, oh, well, this money is considered political speech. Once they said that this is protected First Amendment speech, money is now speech. Well, there's no being third party, right? I mean, once we're saying to you that these people who have a vested interest in seeing that either this particular person or this particular person is your senator, your congressman, your president, whatever, And now when I give them this huge stack of cash, it's First Amendment protected speech. Why would
Money
I
seems to
invest?
be the third party.
Right. Why would I invest in a grassroots? Who are you? Where are you from? Who wants you? Who backs you? Right. So as long as it takes millions of dollars to run for a Senate seat, forget presidency. It
Right.
takes millions and millions and millions to run for a Senate seat. It takes a couple of million in some districts to run for Congress, to be a house, to get a house seat. So it's impossible to have a truly viable third party when you need that kind of bank to run.
Uh, Dr. Casey, do you think a third party is a viable, uh, not, what should I say, a viable alternative?
Okay, so I believe that the democratic system needs to be reimagined as well. And what Mr. Williams said, as far as when they go in and they fire middle management, that goes back to what I was saying earlier. Because in order to really change, you can't keep people in position that's used to doing things a certain way. Because no matter what you say, no matter what's done, they're going to continue to do what they know to do because that's what they know. So when it comes to that, I don't know about a third party unless black people begin to um gather people and really help people become politicians so that we have a good foot in the race so that we can because I think that in order to really restructure the government you got to attack it from inside and outside. So the people got to do the grass work, but then somebody needs to be in position to make some things happen so that you can kind of tag team on it. And what I liked about Trump, not that he was a good business person, not that he did a couple things for veterans, but it's a lot of things that have been underexposed for as long as I've been alive, that racism don't exist, this don't exist, that don't exist. We everybody's just tripping. We're oversensitive, you know. And what happened when Trump was in office is he used his campaign, he used the racism of the people that would support his campaign to win. And then he played them because they don't realize that poor white people are no real different than black people aside from the color of their skin. And because they don't realize that, they kind of fell for the banana in the tailpipe. But it allowed for us to be able to say, see, I told you that this is real, I told you that this exists, and now we can address it. If Hillary would have won, if anybody else would have won, everything would have still been swept up under the rug. Whatever, you know what I'm saying? Everything that's been swept up under the rug, it would have continued along that path. And now it's like a casualty of war. In order to really get somewhere, you got to expose the evil. You're gonna lose a couple people. It's gonna be some little bit of sacrifice. It's gonna be some, some things that go on. But in the end, if you're able to make progress on the real issue and come to a solution, then those things, Sandra Bland didn't die in vain. All of these, George Floyd didn't die in vain. If this helps us to expose the things that need to be changed, it's just who's going to take the reign and say, you know what, we're going to do these things to start setting in place to make the changes that really need to be seen. And that's the real thing. It's not about a party, it's about people with morals that's unpurchasable. Because if you, no matter what party you put into place, if you can be bought, if you can be bribed, if you can be, sweet talked in the ear, then you're going to do whatever they're telling you to do. You're going to fall in line, because the minute that you don't, like every president that ever wanted to help black people ended up getting assassinated. Every person that ever wanted to do something great that was, would put black people in their rightful place as indigenous people, they they eliminate them. It's like, you can't win for losing. So it's more about putting the right people in position than just, creating a party. Because creating a party and just putting somebody there that's not going to do what we need, it defeats the purpose.
Well, let me jump in on that, because the thing about that is, I think what we're overlooking on just that perspective is that it is primarily, especially when we talk about the two-party system, it is primarily that party that creates that puppet. In other words, the people that are running under that banner, running under that process, are held accountable by that party to play the game. And so, from that standpoint, uh, that's why we are that you buy they're buying into, and they're being indoctrinated into a system that is forcing them through that obligation to play the game this way. And it goes back to what's referred to as the three MPs, which is media power, money power, and mafia power. And this is what we're dealing with. And these are the same reasons why the third party system won't work. But I agree 100% with Bill on that, in regards to the fact that the answer would be a third party system. But the idea of the way things are situated is that by finances being tied into who gets elected and everything following the money, it leaves no chance for people that actually have a actual desire to genuinely help the people and serve the people, because there's no room in a political system that is built around capitalism, built around this type of game, for somebody that is genuine. That would even go back to kind of something else that Bill was talking about in regards to black people going from the Republican Party to the Democratic Party. Black people felt that way about John F. Kennedy. And then what happened? He was assassinated. Not to say that he was all for black people, but he spoke up and he moved in certain directions that black people felt, hey, this is the way to go. And from that standpoint, anytime you have uh, a movement like that, then people tend to stick to that perspective, hoping, if nothing else, hoping for somebody else that's going to fulfill those shoes and going to operate on that level. And so we as a people, and this kind of goes back to our religious perspective, so filled with hope, oftentimes that in itself causes us to be so bamboozled into recognizing the fact that it is not hope that's going to get us through this, but it's going to be the reality of us actually creating a process to where the right people are fit for or picked for the job. But that's cleaning the house. And I do agree with you, Dr. Casey, in regards to fighting the battle from both sides. I mean, I believe that, from a guerrilla warfare strategy, we have to recognize that our oppression has not been single sided or single or handed to us from a single direction. It's been multifaceted from jump. So we have to have the same mentality as we find ways to overcome these situations, recognizing that we're getting hit from all areas. And so therefore we need to be diligent enough to fight in all areas. And I think that's the thing. We keep getting polarized in having this mentality where it's either all this or all that. And that plays into why we make some of the poor decisions and go with the poor options instead of dealing with things from a perspective of choice.
Lack of
Uh,
critical thinking, definitely.
Yep.
Bill, you want to give us your final thoughts for the evening? Then you, Dr. Casey, and Brother Williams, will give you a final thought.
Sure. So it's interesting because I am here at a conference that deals with educational opportunity. I've worked in education on and off for many, many years. And I guess, once again, I'll be quizzing the panel. Of all the government programs that have ever been created, do you know which one has been most successful in permanently moving black people who live at or below the poverty line to more than 150% permanently? Like, they're not just bumped up there and then they get fired and come back down. The one that has been the most successful in permanently moving people from poverty to at least doing well enough, right? Maybe not killing it, but doing well enough. You want to know what government program has been the most successful in permanently changing people's lives?
I probably would say none.
Well, the one that's had the most success is the Pell Grant. The Claiborne Pell Grant has been the most successful government program in moving people away from poverty and keeping them permanently away from poverty. So, while it's mentioned that about critical thinking, it's mentioned about people not knowing how to make good choices and lacking good leadership. And one of the things we have here at our conference is what's called Eli, and that's um, it's part of the our educational leadership initiative, right? To find young students, people who are college students, and give them opportunities to suddenly be moved into leadership. And part of the project that they do, they complete as part of their time in Eli, they're being told, here's what you can do. Hey, here's how you write a grant proposal. Here's how you build a program. Here's how you do this. Here's how you change the lives. Just as someone came and changed your life, here's how you change other people's lives. Now, once again, I know that there are people, saying there's always, good and bad and everything. Uh, what I will say is that for things like the Pell Grant, for things like TRIO, the programs where I work, a second Trump presidency would have been a disaster. He was making a lot of very unfriendly noises about what was going to happen to programs like the program that I use to move people permanently away from poverty. A lot of those programs are going to get. So when people say, well, this is that, and it's all the same, maybe at a macro level, that's very, very true. But the beach isn't just sand, it's a bunch of individual grains of sand, right? I may not be able to save millions of people, but I can save 300 and some odd students a year because that's my caseload. And sometimes years later, students will reach back to me and say, Mr. Carroll, I'm doing this. I started my business. I'm a chemical engineer for such and such company. I bought my first house, right? Um, I'm now old enough that I now have students who have children of their own. Some of their children are high school age, so I'm feeling very old. But it's like, remember such and such? This is my kid. How is your kid 5'10"? Um, what's going on? But the point I was making is that we can attack without having to. At some point, we want to have that our friend Mr. Williams and others have sacrificed their lives. Right? The revolutionary suicide that UEP didn't wrote about have sacrificed their lives to bring about. But we don't have to wait for that, right? That's the thing we're all waiting for and wishing for and working for. But that's not likely to happen between now and like Thursday, right? But what I can do between now and Thursday is I can find a kid who's been told that they can't do something and show them they can do it. And I do that literally every day. And if nothing else comes out of the Biden administration, and maybe nothing else will come out of it, but we've been able to secure um, a lot more support for programs like mine, right? That would have likely been either denied increases or in some cases cut, right? Those increases that will allow us to reach more kids, and not just kids. I mean, the average age of students I work with is actually 34 years old. I work with a lot of mothers, and in a couple cases I have two generations that I have got to go to college simultaneously. Mother daughter, mother son are both students now, and which would not have happened otherwise. Access to education isn't everything, right? Not everything, but without access to education, all the things that we want to happen are never going to happen. We will never have good leadership. We will never be able to grow a generation of people that we would want to have run for office, right? Who do have good morals, who do understand, because they came from the struggle, understand the struggle. That is my final thought.
Dr. Casey?
I really think that I've spoken to um any final thoughts that I could really put out there because I believe that the best way to move forward is conversations like the one we're having right now. One that enlightens others as well as grows our own perspectives, because then it allows for us to navigate better, knowing the things that we gather from this conversation. So the only thing that we can do is keep fighting a good fight and causing good trouble, because that's the only way that we're really going to see change. It's going to take a lot of little pieces to make the bigger picture change, and a lot of people that's willing to put in the work. And although I'm only 38, about to be 39, I believe that it's our job to put people in position and train people up to be politicians so that we can know who we are putting into office. Otherwise, we're just going to keep electing the same family tree into the same positions, and nothing will ever change because we're electing people that think the same way as the people that was there before them, versus electing people that has real sense of change. Now, there are people that are in families that think completely opposite and have a more well-rounded view, but that's rare, few, far, and in between. Like, most people don't have enough willpower to stand up to what is against what their families believe. So it's just going to be a matter of seeing it through. Earlier, you talked about wanting to be 101, 102 if God permits. And I really truly desire to live long so that I can see how the world changes. My grandmother, my great grandmother, she passed away when she was in her 90s. So she was able to see President Obama be a president after seeing so much vicious treatment of black people. And I want to experience that. I want to see how the world changes and how I'm able to impact it, with everything that I do in my day to day.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Look forward to talking to you next Monday, as always. Brother Williams, take us home.
All right. I want to just say, go into the definition of codependency and lead us on our listening audience here. A relationship in which a person is physically or psychologically addicted or conditioned to a specific pattern that renders them incapable of operating from a position of self control or self determination. When we look at our condition as a people, codependency pretty much defines who we are. And part of that goes into the word, the terminology that, like what we've been talking about, that people have cliched oftentimes, which goes into brainwashing. But let's look at that from a different word, set of words. Coercive persuasion is actually the better fit word than it is brainwashing. And when you deal with that, it's based upon a lot of propaganda, indoctrination, and what I call linear education or linear thinking. And the reason why I say that, this goes back into the words we hit on from time to time, and we talk about critical thinking. So as it applies to a certain type of educational model that tends to be what most of us fall under, it has more so to do with teaching someone how to pass a test than it does teaching someone how to think for themselves and how to be critical about, what it is before you, and deal with things from a logical perspective, which is why I talk about that from the standpoint of linear thought, thinking versus non-linear. So as a people, we have to break that cycle. We have to break the cycle of what education actually means for us. Because even going back to what Bill is talking about, so with the Pell Grant, I was a receiver of the Pell Grant. So yes, I completely agree with you on that one. The thing about it is, what does most of us do with our education? The one thing that I did love that he said was that when you put a person in a position to where they recognize that same gift that was given to them, they should in turn attempt to do the same thing. That's what we call reciprocity. That goes back into a form of a rites of passage, to where I, as a person, feel obligated to help my community, feel obligated to help the next person. And see, that is where we need to be as a people, to where the work that we're doing here on this radio broadcast, as it applies to waking the people up, as it applies to being out there making a difference, We want our people to know that they have an obligation to do for others. And we have to break that cycle of individuality, because as long as we think like individuals, that puts us right back in that rat race. That puts us right back in this whole position of being utilized through our codependency and never getting away from what is holding us as oppressed as a people. So, listening audience, please recognize the difference. Recognize what coercive persuasion is. Recognize what this functional disorder is, and that's how we're living. And let's get away from our codependence. All power to the people.
Hey, I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight. Look forward to talking to you next Monday. Have a great night. Have a great weekend. I'll see you all next Monday. I can't hear you, Bill. I'm mute.
Oh,
I'm mute. Yeah. You still unmute.
well, oh, can you hear me now?
Go. Yeah, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
At some point, I would like to follow up with Dr. Casey. So if you have Dr. Casey's contact information, that would be fantastic.
All right, we'll do. And like you said, didn't make no difference what time you came. We're still open. All right. I'll
All
talk
right.
to you.
You have a good night.
Yeah.